Quiet neighborhood in Phoenix looking a little more like a cattle range.
Hey, they're gonna ram you for real.
Where's a cowboy when you need one? Cell phone video capturing, capturing 3 bulls roaming free on the streets after they escaped from a nearby ranch. Nobody was hurt. The bulls wandered around for a bit before the owner evidently came and rounded them up. Truck versus bull right there. It's unclear, though, how the bulls broke out in the first place.
Yeah. Who won that battle, though? You're ready with your cowboy boots on.
Always.
Well, a powerful nor'easter is slamming New England. More than a foot of snow falling in some places. And this is the scene in Maine. Take a look, where travel conditions are treacherous. The storm also knocking out power for more than 100,000 people. Meteorologist Janice Dean is live from the Fox Extreme Weather Center. And you're ready for a party regardless, nor'easter or not.
It's my last, well, almost my last official weather hit for 2016. So, you know, we have to dress the part. The good news is the nor'easter is almost out of the way and the temperatures are not that bad. I mean, we were dealing with sub-zero temperatures just a couple of weeks ago for parts of the northern plains. So we'll take it. 10 in Provo, that's a little cold, but it's warmer than average across the central U.S. and 38 here in New York. That nor'easter that dumped over 2 feet of snow across New England is exiting. However, we're still getting some snow for parts of New England, and then we also have the Great Lakes getting that lake effect snow, in some cases 6 to 10 inches more on top of what we already received from this system. So heading into Sunday and Monday, certainly a little more snow in the forecast, but overall not too bad for our big celebration here in Times Square. I'm forecasting cloudy skies, 40 degrees, which is actually pretty good when it comes right down to it. We do have a front that's going to move across the southeast, so Atlanta, you could have a few showers on you. Otherwise, Midwest looks good. Northern Plains look good. Central U.S. pretty good. Could see a few showers for L.A. in towards the Four Corners, but otherwise, not bad at all. So here's a couple of big cities: Boston, New York, D.C., Miami, Philadelphia, and Atlanta. Again, you could see some scattered showers here in Atlanta, Georgia, and in Chicago and St. Louis and Phoenix and Houston. Los Angeles, you could get a few showers there, as well as Seattle. But again, pretty darn good. And your New Year's Day looks even better than that. Much of the country is quiet. We could see a few thunderstorms over Texas, and then the East Coast looks good. Again, more showers for the Southeast, but otherwise not a bad forecast for the last official Friday of 2016. Heather?
Yeah, maybe a sign of things to come for the new year.
We'll see about that. I don't know. There's more winter to come, my friend.
Right.
Happy New Year to you both, you and Eric.
To you too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You and yours, Janice. Well, this is, you said, the old wives' tale, right?
Yes.
What you do on New Year's, you do for the rest of the year.
Yes.
Therefore, if the weather's good, it should be good the rest of the year.
But that's usually why I always like to be working, because you'll have a job the rest of the year.
I like that.
Yep.
I like that. All right, and we both will be. All right. Coming up, the White House leveling sanctions on Russia for interfering in our presidential election. But do they go far enough? Live from Hawaii with the president, and from Florida with the president-elect, both in better places than New York this week. Stay with us.
The Kremlin holding its fire after the White House punishes Russia for cyber hacking. President Vladimir Putin ignoring recommendations for retaliation after the U.S. expels 35 Russian diplomats. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Heather Childers.
And a lot of news for a Christmas week. One day before New Year's, I'm Leland Vittert. Bill and Martha off today. President Obama taking action against Russia, but Putin refusing to even the score. Instead, he claims he's waiting to get a fresh start at restoring relations when President-elect Donald Trump takes office.
We have Fox team coverage for you. Peter Ducey covering the Trump transition in Palm Beach, Florida, and White House correspondent Kevin Corke live in Honolulu. Lucky guy there. Kevin, you asked the White House why not let the incoming Trump administration deal with the Russians. Good question. Did they have a good answer?
Well, I thought the answer was sort of what I expected, which is, listen, Kevin, the clock's not at zero, it's still running, and we're going to run all the way through the tape, right? That's sort of boilerplate stuff in terms of political speak inside Washington. But I must say this, they did have an opportunity to sort of weigh whether or not they wanted to do something now or simply leave it. But they felt like, given what happened in the run-up to the 2016 election, they wanted to make something happen and make the Russians pay. Now, we have been talking at length, frankly, Heather, over the last 24 hours about what the Russians might do in retaliation. But we do know, at least from this perspective, the president has already ordered that a couple of facilities be shuttered, including one in New York and one in the state of Maryland, making sure that that was part and parcel to this sort of retaliation for what was perceived as cyber intrusion in the lead up to the 2016 election. Now, I want to share just part of what the president has been saying about this. Of course, the Russian operatives, nearly 36 of them, have now less than 72 hours to leave the country. The president saying in his statement, these actions are not the sum total of our response to Russia's aggressive activities. We will continue to take a variety of actions at a time and place of our choosing, some of which will not be publicized. And that's an important aspect of all this, Heather, because keep in mind, the cyber response is probably where the majority of the meat will be. The White House, of course, placing the blame on Vladimir Putin for the supposed hacking of the DNC emails, including the Clinton campaign chair, John Podesta. And Eric Schultz says that's why they chose to act now.
What Russia has been engaged in over the last few months and years is unacceptable. It's outside the norms of diplomatic behavior, and the president is sending a message today to tell them to cut it out. If the next administration wants to lift sanctions against senior Russian intelligence units to make it easier for them to interfere in our elections, he can go ahead and do that. We just don't think that makes much sense.
So there you go. Cut it out, knock it off, and that's why they're making the decisions they're making right now, Heather.
So any indication of what the Russians will do to react to these moves by the Obama administration?
You know, it's interesting. I've been covering politics for a long time and very obviously well aware of what the Russians generally do in situations like this. They react very quickly, right? And yesterday you saw closing schools down, making declarative statements. But very interesting today, Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, seems to be taking sort of a wait-and-see attitude, figuring he'll wait until the Trump administration takes over in a few weeks to see exactly how they might respond. Let me share part of his statement as they continue to sort of unpack what the White House has done and what their response may in fact be. Again, this is from Vladimir Putin. As it proceeds from international practice, Russia has reasons to respond in kind. Although we have the right to retaliate, we will not resort to irresponsible kitchen diplomacy, but we'll plan our further steps to restore Russian-U.S. relations based on the policies of the Trump administration. A thaw? We'll all have to wait and see. Heather, back to you.
We'll see. And opposite of what the Russian Foreign Ministry had suggested this morning, that they do, in fact, expel those diplomats from the U.S., from Russia. All right, thank you very much for joining us, Kevin.
President-elect Trump responding to all this after saying it was time to move on. He's changing his tune a little bit. Peter Ducey following the president-elect from his Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach. So, Peter, give us a sense of the evolution here now in terms of where Mr. Trump's policy is on exactly what the White House did with Russia.
Leland, the president-elect now says he is going to hear out intelligence agencies that have been insisting Russia must have been responsible for election interference. But the president-elect also says enough is enough. Election's over. So in a statement, we got this from Mr. Trump last night. It's time for our country to move on to bigger and better things. Nevertheless, in the interest of our country and its great people, I will meet with leaders of the intelligence community next week in order to be updated on the facts of this situation. Something we do not get from that statement is an explanation of one way or the other about whether or not the next president supports these sanctions and plans to keep them in place, or if he plans to lift them as fast as possible once he is sworn in. It's also not clear how this may affect the warm sentiments Mr. Trump and President Putin expressed for each other last week as they spoke publicly about improving relations. But the soon-to-be White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus doesn't want there to be any confusion about whether or not President-elect Trump is concerned about what happened.
We agree that foreign governments shouldn't be hacking American institutions, period. It's wrong, and it's something that we don't agree with. However, it would be nice if we could get to a place where the intelligence community, in unison, can tell us what it is that has been going on and what the investigation was.
And the incoming counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, is now wondering out loud if the Obama administration, with these sanctions, is trying to box in the Trump administration, basically tie their hands as the Trump administration tries to figure out how it is that they want to deal with Russia come January. Leland?
They've got about 21 days to do that. Any idea what the president-elect's going to be doing at Mar-a-Lago today? We know there's a party tomorrow night. A little bit of work today or relaxation?
It's a lot of work today, Leland. The transition officials are telling us that they are trying to put some plans in place to make quick, big changes on the president-elect's first day in office. Before that happens, though, the president-elect does have 4 cabinet-level positions that still need to be filled, so there are going to be some meetings about that here on the last Friday of 2016. Back to you.
Back to you as the news breaks there from a beautiful Palm Beach. Thanks, Peter.
Well, for more on this, let's bring in Steve Hayes. He's the editor-in-chief of the Weekly Standard and a Fox News contributor. Thank you for joining us, first of all.
Heather.
So let's start where Peter Doocy just left off, and that is the president-elect's response to Russia. What is your opinion on what he had to say, which is, move on, but he is going to meet with some of the intelligence leaders to get a full view of everything that's happened?
Well, I think it was important that Reince Priebus, the chief of staff, said what he said last night on the O'Reilly Factor to make it clear that the incoming Trump administration won't abide any foreign attempts, particularly by hostile powers, to interfere with our elections or the parties who are participating in those elections. It's important to clarify that nobody here, not even the White House, is claiming that the Russians attempted to actually hack or successfully hacked our electoral systems. That is not what people are talking about.
Yeah, they're saying they hacked the DNC and they hacked Podesta's emails.
Right, exactly. I think there have been some in the media who have conflated those two things. It's important to separate them. But look, I think Donald Trump's statement yesterday was troubling, honestly. If you look at what he said it's time to move on, and then he said he'll sit down with the intelligence community and learn the facts. Well, it seems to me that you need to learn the facts before you declare it's time to move on. And Donald Trump, throughout this entire process, for reasons that might be understandable, by the way, but has suggested that Russia wasn't involved, that there wasn't really any hacking at all, that it might have been a 400-pound guy in a basement. It seems to me that he's not taking this as seriously as it needs to be taken. Russia is a hostile power. They've been bent on reconstituting the former Soviet empire. We've seen aggressive expansionism both in the former Soviet empire and throughout the Middle East. And they've been harassing and attacking our diplomats now going on several years. So it's time to take this seriously and to treat Russia and Vladimir Putin as the KGB thug that he is.
So let's talk a little bit more about that, the things that Russia has been doing up until now, and the current administration and the timing of this, why they are responding harshly right now. We have a couple things that I wanted to pull up for you. One was the Secretary of State at the time pushing the reset button, Hillary Clinton under President Obama. We had this happen. Okay, fresh start. Let's begin anew. And then we have that open mic incident that happened with President Obama in 2012, where he says, after my election, I have some more flexibility. So he's let a lot of things go by in the interim, and now we have this.
I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir.
So why is he being harsh now?
Well, this is far too convenient. I mean, he's not outraged by any of those things or by the Russians basically accommodating Edward Snowden after the leaks that Snowden was responsible for. He's given Russia a free hand in Syria, in effect. He allowed Russia to invade Crimea, to invade Ukraine. This new hawkishness from President Obama is very unconvincing, hard to believe. And I think he's doing it out of convenience, frankly. I was on the special report panel last night, and Karen Tumulty, a very fine reporter with the Washington Post, suggested that President Obama is really just trying to box in and isolate Donald Trump. And my response to that is incredible. After 7.5 years of President Obama not trying to isolate Vladimir Putin, that he's now trying to isolate his successor. I think it's rather outrageous.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to your previous point about the president-elect's response to all this. It really puts him in a difficult position because throughout the campaign, people accused him of being soft on Russia, being friends with Putin. So if he reverses the sanctions, then they'll say, we were right. But then if he doesn't, then that impacts, I should say, the relationship with Russia moving forward.
Well, it does, but look, I mean, there's no question that Donald Trump was friendly towards Russia and Vladimir Putin throughout his campaign. He had numerous advisors who were friendly toward the Russians. He sought at a number of different intervals to excuse Russian bad behavior. There was that one famous exchange that he had where he was presented with information that Vladimir Putin was killing journalists and others, and he said, well, America's kills people too. There are reasons to be concerned about Donald Trump's closeness with Vladimir Putin and Russia, his willingness to embrace a thug rogue regime like the one that Vladimir Putin operates. He shouldn't be responding to Barack Obama and his petulance in this last minute move. Donald Trump should chart his own course, and I hope that congressional Republicans who have been much more aggressive in pushing the Obama administration to take seriously the threat from Russia and its proxies, I hope that they will exert their influence on Donald Trump to make him take this very seriously. It's an important thing for our country.
Well, he has surrounded himself with some very knowledgeable people, so we'll see what happens. Steve, thank you so much for joining us, and have a Happy New Year.
Thanks, Heather. You too.
Bye-bye.
Today, we're talking about Russia. For the past few days, we've been talking about Israel, and the Trump team is now promising to repair relations with Israel, but has too much damage already been done? Trump supporter, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, standing by live to weigh in. Hello, Governor. And as some Democrats call for even tougher sanctions against Russia, the next White House press secretary suggests the party should spend more time looking inward.
To be clear, any attempt to hack or to do anything nefarious is wrong and illegal. But at some point, the question hasn't even been asked of the DNC. Did you take basic measures to protect the data that was on there?
A Fox News alert as the U.S. Coast Guard is searching the frigid waters of Lake Erie for a small jet that disappeared shortly after takeoff from a Cleveland airport late last night. The plane was on its way to Ohio State University south of Cleveland in Columbus, just about 140 miles away. At some point, air traffic control lost connection with the Cessna. Officials say 3 children and 3 adults were on board the small jet.
Well, the UN resolution on Israeli settlements drawing fierce criticism from President-elect Trump. Incoming counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, promising that the next administration will take a different approach.
You will see President Trump have a much stronger relationship with Israel. You can't put daylight between the U.S. and Israel diplomatically, militarily, technically, when you're talking about President Trump's administration. It's our greatest friend, our best friend in that region, and stabilization of the Middle East is a goal for President-elect Trump overall. But we want our friends in Israel to know that help is on the way.
Here to talk about it is Governor Mike Huckabee, former Arkansas governor and a Fox News contributor. Thank you for joining us. First of all, how would you describe relations with Israel right now?
Terrible. And I think that between Barack Obama and John Kerry, they have just stunk up the place. It's unbelievable what the U.S. did at the UN by not vetoing that ridiculous resolution. And John Kerry's speech was just almost immeasurably not only too long, but it was too inaccurate. And what he did, he failed to point out that these are not two equal sides. One side is a free democracy that has full rights for everybody and has made hundreds of overtures to try to bring peace. The other one has never acknowledged the other one's right to existence, and the Palestinians continue to sponsor terrorism, celebrate it, pay for it, and name streets after those who commit it and pay salaries to those who kill Jews. This is not equivalency.
So then how would he answer that question? Do you think that he just doesn't know that there's that huge difference, or if it was intentionally left out and the goal is actually something else here.
Well, I think the goal that the Obama administration put forth was kind of like a person who's been evicted from a home, and before they leave, they break every window, they trash the place, they write on the walls, and they break the plumbing. They just want to make sure there's a huge mess for the next renter to have to come in and fix. And that's honestly what it looks like. There's no other rationale for this. This was an irrational action, especially to take 3 weeks before they're leaving office. John Kerry's had 4 years to try to bring peace to the Middle East. Well, let me just give you a news flash. John Kerry was never going to bring peace to the Middle East between Palestinians and Israelis, because Palestinians don't want peace. They want the eradication of Israel. And that's the only thing that they're after.
So that's why I asked
Israel has given up land.
That's why I asked you,
Yep.
does he know the difference between the two? I mean, he's had 4 years to be over there, so obviously he would know the difference.
Well, he still continues to believe that there can be a two-state solution. But keep in mind, in his mind, this irrational mind of his, two states mean two governments trying to live on top of each other on the same piece of real estate. I mean, that's not going to happen. And for Israel to give up Jerusalem, Heather, one of the things that never has made sense is that there's only one group of people who have ever had Jerusalem as a capital. And it wasn't the Jordanians, it wasn't the Egyptians, it wasn't the Ottomans, it wasn't the Turks, it wasn't the Brits, it wasn't the Assyrians, the Babylonians, it was the Jews. The only people who have ever had Jerusalem as a capital. Jerusalem is not even mentioned in the Quran. There are a couple of holy sites in Jerusalem, the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock, but it's never mentioned in the Quran. It's not a holy site like Mecca or Medina would be. And here's one of the other things. The Israelis have always protected those Muslim sites as well as the Christian and Jewish sites so that anyone could go and experience them.
Do you think that
We
the United
don't have
States, do you think that President Obama pushed for this resolution? The Israelis say that they have proof that that is what happened. Do you believe that that is what happened? And do you think that this is a personal move against Benjamin Netanyahu, and a personal move to kind of put the president-elect, Donald Trump, behind the 8 ball when it comes to relations with Israel?
Yes, I think it was personal and petty. And secondly, I think he not only knew about it, I think he helped draft it. And I think the evidence continues to come forth to show phone calls that have been made with the Egyptians and the Jordanians and others who indicate that there was heavy pressure put on by the U.S. for people to support this, including the Ukrainians. So, yeah, I think it was something that the Obama administration not just stood by and said, oh, my gosh, we can't stop it. I think they did everything to start it. And I think it's shameful and disgusting. It's a slap in the face to our one true ally in the Middle East, and it's a betrayal of the trust that we should be having with Israel. And the good news is, I think the next administration will fix it.
Yeah, quite a way
I just think the next administration will change it.
Yeah, moving forward. All right, thank you so much for joining us. Hope that you have a great weekend and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. By the way, I'll be in Israel next week. I hope to let them know this is not representative of all Americans.
All right. Let us know how that goes. We'll have you back.
A flurry of action in the final days for the outgoing Obama administration. We just heard about what happened at the UN vis-a-vis Israel, but critics say President Obama is busy building hurdles for his successor. Is President-elect Donald Trump being set up to fail by the man currently in the White House? Our panel with that next.
Suspect leading police on a wild chase in a U-Haul. Take a look at this. The suspect driving the truck through the streets of Phoenix after police got a call about a robbery at a convenience store. Well, the suspect finally stopping at an intersection. That's where he got out, and then he tried to carjack an SUV. Police shooting the suspect when he appeared to point a weapon at a woman behind the wheel with a child in the back seat, by the way. The suspect taken into custody and is hospitalized in stable condition.
States across the West say legal pot in Colorado is causing them big problems at home. Authorities say smugglers are buying legal pot in Colorado and then taking it across state lines to sell on the black market. Alicia Acuna following this story from Denver. Wow.
Yes, I know. Listen to this, Leland. A law enforcement source tells us a majority of the marijuana that's grown in Colorado for both recreational and medicinal use is actually smuggled out to other states. We were also told the plants grown here, which are babied essentially, grow to between 6 and 8 feet tall and can be 4 to 6 feet wide. They produce far more than that grown by the Mexican drug cartels and are much more potent. Between Colorado's laws, the amount available here, and the quality, federal and state authorities say it's become prime real estate to set up an illegal export business.
What we are seeing, unfortunately, is an influx of organized crime. There is an opportunity to hide behind what is a legal system now and grow essentially in plain sight.
The number of seizures by law enforcement of Colorado pot heading to other states has jumped dramatically since legalized in 2012. According to the Colorado Department of Revenue, in the first 9 months of this year, sales for medical and recreational marijuana were totaled nearly $975 million. 8 states plus the District of Columbia have legalized recreational pot, but Leland, as you know, at the federal level, it's still illegal. Leland?
Not only illegal, but obviously the DEA is charged with stopping it. You've got customs at the border. Any indication that things are going to change at the federal level to deal with this problem that's existing out there?
Right, that's a big question here, right. Well, President-elect Trump was asked about this while on the campaign trail, and he says when it comes to medicinal, it's okay. Recreational, no. Now, President Obama, in an interview with Rolling Stone, said, quote, "It is untenable over the long term for the Justice Department or the DEA to be enforcing a patchwork of laws where something that's legal in one state could get you a 20-year prison sentence in another." However, I should note, the president said he is not advocating for a policy change. Leland?
All right, we'll see what happens over the next 8 years. It will be interesting for sure. Alicia Acuna in Denver. See you soon.
Well, some Democrats say not enough is being done to punish Russia for cyber meddling in the 2016 election. But now there's some new questions about the DNC. Should they take some of the blame?
And Amazon looking for new ways to get your packages to you even faster. Check this out. We've got the Amazon drone, but what about a flying warehouse? A Fox News alert has new concerns about the cyber hacking, which exposed thousands of sensitive emails written by Democratic officials. The interim chair of the DNC saying the White House needs to do more to punish the Russians. But incoming White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer saying, why hasn't the DNC taken blame for allowing it to happen in the first place?
To be clear, any attempt to hack or to do anything nefarious is wrong and illegal. But at some point, the question hasn't even been asked of the DNC. Did you take basic measures to protect the data that was on there? No one wrote those emails, no one put a private server on there, and no one seems to have done the due diligence at the DNC to protect their own system.
Susan Crabtree, senior congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You think about it, Sean Spicer sort of has a point, especially considering we learned back in December that the FBI called the DNC, said you're being hacked, and the DNC didn't do anything.
Well, I think this is a little bit of blaming the victim here. You know, we have all the U.S. intelligence agencies finding that Russia was responsible for this hack. It's time to move forward. I'm sure the political committees now will beef up their security now that they know that they might be targeted and that Russia and other entities might be meddling in our elections. But it is really time to move forward and change the protocols. What I thought was interesting about that scenario was the FBI just kept phone calling the little low-level IT staffer. They never made the 1-mile trek over physically to tell the DNC, at least early on, that there was the severity of the problem.
But it's at some level, though, is this the DNC crying over spilt milk and saying, oh, no, it's not that the voters rejected our policies. It's not that people found Hillary Clinton to be a lying, untrustworthy candidate. It's that we were hacked. It was the Russians. Therefore, President Obama needs to do something about this. We don't have to clean our own house.
Well, of course, you had the Russians antagonizing, harassing diplomats overseas. Back in June, there were reports about this. This is a little too late for President Obama. His policy on cybersecurity has been too little, too late for a long time. We've had He was holding up the cybersecurity bill for many, many years with a veto threat. The lawmakers involved in that are very upset about that. And we haven't had severe repercussions against the victims or the perpetrators in the China breach.
Yeah.
You know, we had 21 million personal people with private citizens, U.S. citizens. And where was the Democrats' sound and fury on that? So it looks obviously political at this point.
So to that end, what percentage of this and the outrage we hear from President Obama and from the DNC, what percentage of the outrage and these retaliatory matters are genuine concern for a clear and present danger against the United States? What percentage are an attempt to either sort of undermine Trump's victory or to in some way box him in come January 20th?
Well, I think it's a little bit of everything that you mentioned. You know, Trump has kind of put himself in a bad position here, I think, because he's saying that he wants to be friends with Russia. Yes, we had a Russia reset with George W. Bush, and we had, again, that hot mic moment with President Obama, but we saw that that is not working and that they're antagonizing our elections right now. This is very serious meddling in our elections. Very serious stuff that deserves an appropriate response. And what we've seen here, the president on his way out the door, he's finally doing something. He had, you know, months and years to do something, and he hasn't done any deterrence on cybersecurity. So yeah, I think that he's taking his chance on it. It's certainly his right to do it on the way out the door, but again, too little too late here.
As we listen to the Trump talking points on the other side, they of course do what Sean Spicer did, which is pivot towards the DNC, pivot towards the Democrats, pivot towards the point you just made about President Obama. But that at the same time, up until this statement we got late last night, the president-elect has basically flatly rejected anything in terms of the Russians being involved, and now is saying, well, I'll take a briefing on it, but I'm not really sure. Is this because he doesn't want anything that could possibly undermine his victory? So this is sort of a way of building a wall around his victory? Or is there something else going on that we may not quite understand in terms of his relationship with Russia?
Well, I think that's the $65,000 question right now. I mean, honestly, he is right as a new president coming in to have a new engagement with Russia. That is his right. He's obviously trying that. He's made no secret of that.
Well, President Obama tried it. President Bush tried it. Didn't work very well, but they both did it.
It's not working, but he's going to give it another stab. We have members of Congress who are going to be leading these investigations. Obviously, Trump and several key members of Congress, McCain, Lindsey Graham, others, he's on a collision course with them over Russia. And we'll see how it comes out, but this is not a very good way to start the administration, and President Obama is capitalizing on that.
Yeah, big questions, especially when it comes to the confirmation hearings for Rex Tillerson, Secretary of State, who's very close to Vladimir Putin. Susan Crabtree covering it from Washington for the Washington Examiner. Thank you, ma'am. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Heather.
Well, the U.S. Navy aircraft carrier that helped deliver the first airstrikes against ISIS is now heading back into the fight. Fox News paid a visit to the USS George H.W. Bush ahead of its deployment. Lucas Tomlinson is live for us from the Pentagon with more. Hi, Lucas.
Hi, Heather. Well, good morning. Well, right now, there are not only are there no U.S. aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf and in the Middle East, but there's no American aircraft carriers deployed anywhere else in the world. Following USS Eisenhower's and her strike group's return today to Norfolk following a 7-month deployment striking ISIS as well as Iranian-backed forces in Yemen. USS George H.W. Bush is up next. Fox News recently flew out 40 miles off the coast of North Carolina to visit the warship and watch jets land every 60 seconds, the crew working to get that down to 40 seconds. And in addition to fighting ISIS, the ship's commanding officer says his crew will be ready to deal with a resurgent Russia or China if necessary.
While we don't have any emergent or pending conflicts with them, certainly, it is fair to say that we have divergent interests in many cases. And so we need to be prepared to understand how we will react to that if necessary.
Officials tell me they do have other jets available to make up for this carrier gap. Now, you mentioned some of the history with this ship. USS George H.W. Bush launched the first airstrikes against ISIS on August 8, 2014. Now, 2.5 years later, that warship is getting ready to return to the fight.
This is the military equivalent of spring training, because once we complete this at the end of December, then we'll be going forward, and it'll be real forces that will be going flying with and against.
Aboard the flight deck, the average age of the sailors is between 18 and 22 years old. They're working 14 hours a day on very little sleep, and that's just training, Heather.
All right, Lucas Tomlinson joining us live. Thank you, and have a happy new year.
You too.
A senior Trump advisor is sounding off about the Russian sanctions we've been talking about.
Disappointed to read in David Sanger's New York Times piece this evening the allegation or the supposition that perhaps one reason that these sanctions are taking place is to, quote, box in President-elect Trump, forcing him to take a position or otherwise once he takes office.
So is President Obama really setting up roadblocks to hobble the new administration?
Plus, a family pet in danger of drowning in a frozen lake. But stay tuned. We'll tell you how this all turned out.
Right now, firefighters put their water rescue skills to work, saving the family dog from a certain and icy death. Here he comes back in. The dog fell through the ice and was doing what it could to pull itself up. Obviously very difficult. Firefighters then rushed in to get the pup just in time.
Over time, he started to become a little bit more lethargic just due to the conditions in the water and hypothermia setting in.
The dog was probably about ready to give up.
Yes, so we knew that we had to get out there. Looking at an ice rescue situation involving animals, if it's a deer, we're probably not going to endanger our staff and put them out on the ice, but for a family pet like a dog, we'll do our best to rescue them.
Wow. They certainly did their best, risking their own lives, quite literally, as it happened. You can see the tether that firefighter had on him. Dog currently under veterinary care near White Lake, Michigan, 40 miles outside Detroit. The dog's dealing with some serious health issues because of the incident, but all the best for the new year, little guy.
Yeah, hang in there.
Icy's his new nickname.
Well, President Obama is taking a series of major actions during his final weeks in office, no doubt about that, such as new sanctions against Russia, leading some Trump supporters to wonder if the current president, is trying to box in the president-elect, Donald Trump.
We see some roadblocks sometimes from President Obama, and we do wonder about the rush to do all of these things in the next couple of weeks by the Obama administration and how that may upend longstanding U.S. policy, as it seems to be, or how it may be, and as the New York Times put it, quote, trying to box in the president-elect. We hope that's not true.
Rachel Campos-Duffy is a Fox News contributor, and Kathy Aru is a journalist, and she's the publisher of Catalina Magazine, author of Latino Wisdom, and co-host of the web series Red Mom, Blue Mom. Thank you both for joining us today as we potentially move into a new year with a lot going on. I mean, not potentially, we are moving into a new year. We do have a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we mentioned the Russian sanctions. That's just one of the potential roadblocks that President Obama has put into place as President-elect Donald Trump moves into office. Do you think all of this is intentional, Rachel?
I think it's intentional. There are roadblocks, but I don't think that they're going to put a halt or even slow down the Trump administration. Look at who he's put into his cabinet. These are people who are can-do people. I don't think this is going to stop the Trump agenda. For example, the case with the UN, that one is a little bit difficult. You can't undo that resolution unless you convince all those other countries to undo it. Not likely to happen. But look, the United States pays 25% of the UN's budget. So there are other things that Trump could do, such as pare back the amount we pay, or maybe even stop paying for all these UN budget.
But will any of that disrupt the timeline that he had discussed being in place in terms of things that they want to tackle? First and foremost, being Obamacare. Will all of these other issues be put in his way so that it delays some of the things he wants to get done?
Well, I don't see that they're in his way. Obama did his job. They're fine. They don't have to be turned over. There's no reason Trump should come in and do away with the sanctions.
We have the Russia sanctions. We have the Israel UN security.
Obama simply followed international law.
The offshore drilling ban,
which
federal
thank
land grab out west.
Land grab. He put 3 million acres of land aside for environmental reasons. This is wonderful, and
a lot of people would disagree with that. The governor of Utah being among them.
Well, many would agree.
But I would just say a lot of Obama's legacy was built really on executive orders that can be overturned. So there are a lot of things that can happen. And look, Donald Trump's under a lot of pressure to repeal Obamacare. He ran on that. He's got a base that's just itching for him to do it. So I think he's going to move forward on those things. What this really is about, it's about sour grapes on the part of Obama. Right now, he has his own party. Right now, his own party is turning on him. Look at loyalists like Sam Stein, really laying at the feet of Obama the decimation of the entire party, not just the loss of this election,
but approval rating of any outgoing president. So the party, we're not turning on him at all.
But he's had 2 terms. He's had 2 terms to get a lot
we're very proud of, and he's done wonderful things. We approve of what he's done.
But why wait until the very end to do something, specifically with the Russia sanctions?
He's not a lame duck. He's doing a great job. He's doing things that need to be done. Congress wasn't going to move at all, helping out environmentalists. They were not moving. The UN was simply what needed to be done, was following international law. Israel should not be settling in those lands. Everyone knows that. And for Trump to say he's going to come in and overturn that is ridiculous. That's against international law.
Yeah, but the question was, why did he wait until the very last minute for some of these things? As we've been discussing,
waiting for Congress to get around and do it.
Well, but the latest being the Russia sanctions, because we've known that Russia has been causing some issues for a long time now, but he waits until the very last minute.
In the last 20 days, he's become a Reagan Cold War warrior. It's very questionable. I think what this is, it's par for the course of what we've seen since day one. I think that this has been a very graceless and tacky exit, but not just for Barack Obama, but also for the First Lady, who had that interview with Oprah where she took swipes at Donald Trump. I think it's really sad and really flies in the face of what they promised before the election, which was to have a very peaceful and civil transfer of power.
A smooth transition. Would you consider this a smooth transition?
I think it's very smooth. I think he's doing work that Trump should be very thrilled that he's doing for him, and thank him, actually, for laying out such beautiful policies. He did 4 great things, and Trump should come on in and say, thank you. And now that's less that I have to overturn them. Less that I have to do, less on my plate.
Well, so, okay, here's my question.
Obama.
Well, but we have the president-elect being Donald Trump, and the president-elect is not Hillary Clinton.
Right.
So clearly, he was elected to make some changes. People did not want more of the same.
But more people voted for Hillary, so people did want more of the same. Hillary, as far as I'm concerned, did win. I think the Electoral College should be.
Barack Obama himself said that Hillary wasn't just on the ballot, that he and his legacy and his policies were on the ballot, and the American people spoke on November 6th.
And they all voted for Hillary.
And the president-elect is Donald Trump.
She's still in denial.
That's a whole nother story. Okay, thank you both for joining us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
to you, too.
Leland?
Wow. All right. First, it was drone delivery. Now Amazon is floating a new idea that could change the game in how you get packages. Are you ready for a flying warehouse? We'll explain coming up.